Sportscast Thanksgiving Eve 2019. If you haven't yet, please subscribe in all our channels, YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, and iTunes. And if you're in iTunes, please leave a rating and a review. It will help us out tremendously. And, of course, visit us on thesportscast.net, thesportscast.net. This episode is brought to you by InstaBible. Create a image with a verse on it, share it to the world. It'll be a blessing to many others on this Thanksgiving weekend. Tonight we have a special night tonight. We're previewing the Auburn versus Alabama, known as the Iron Bowl game. And we're having two commentators tonight. We have one is Mr. Justin Riley, which he'll be coming in a little bit later on the show. And our first-time guest, Brian Glaze. Brian Glaze has become a follower of the Sportscast for the past couple of months. And he also has his own YouTube channel that he explains, certain aspects of the game of college football. He just had one this past week about Justin Herbert, about his performance against Arizona State. But anyways, let's welcome in Brian Glaze. Brian, welcome back. Welcome to your first appearance of the Sportscast.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Man, that welcome was so great. I felt like it was undeserved.
Hey, everyone on the Sportscast loves you. I mean, they're like, man, he's spot on what he said about Justin Herbert. His tweets are awesome. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Oh man, where do I begin? Well, I'm originally from Birmingham, Alabama, and so I grew up watching, the Iron Bowl and SEC football a lot. The funny thing is that my mom and dad are both Auburn fans, and I guess I became the black sheep of the family and started rooting for Alabama. And so it created a lot of controversy, but it's a lot of fun during the football season, of course. And then I came out to California for school, and I started this YouTube channel that I have in 2016. And I just started breaking down the Alabama games and slowly kind of, branched out to more teams. And it settled on doing these analysis videos where I get into specific plays and, show people, the average thing that the casual fan may not see. And grown quite a bit, and it's been kind of amazing to see.
Yeah, you have about 1,000 or 1,200 subscribers, don't you?
Yeah, over 1,200, almost 1,230 now, I think. So, yeah, it's been crazy.
Now, tell us, how did you become an Alabama fan? Of course, I lived in Alabama for a year and a half. And it's overwhelmingly Alabama fans, more Alabama fans than Auburn fans. But how did you become an Alabama fan?
Man, what happened was, let me see. I think actually, in Nick Saban's first year. So I grew up everybody watched college football. It's always a fun thing in our family. But I really got into it that 2007 year. I was in middle school. And I remember, so this is crazy. The game that made me go, you know what, I want to root for these guys was the loss to Louisiana Monroe, which really? A lot of people were like, wait, why did that game cause you to root for Alabama? For whatever reason, when I saw that game, I was like, you know what? I felt like they need a little pick me up, but also I feel like this is the type of team that I want to root for. And I just started, I kept going after that, and I started reading every article I can see, learning everything I could about the team and about the sport. And I always say that I'm the reason why Nick Saban was so successful, because the next year they went 12-2 and got to the SEC championship game. But it's just me messing around.
Yeah, when I started living in Alabama, I think Nick Saban was already coached there for a year or two, and he started winning championships. I think this whole decade of the tens, he's winning 4 or 5 championships, and potentially this time around. But we'll get to Alabama soon. What other sports teams do you cheer for, or other sports, or you just cheer for college football?
Man, I watch a few others. A lot of people wouldn't guess, but my second favorite sport is actually tennis. And so I really like tennis, both men's and women's. I usually watch singles. Of course, I love Roger Federer. He's just amazing to watch play, but I love watching other guys like Thiem and Sangha and Kei Nishikori. I kind of get around and watch it all. A lot of people get surprised when I say that, but it's actually one of my favorite sports to watch.
It's interesting. I actually got into tennis this past couple years. I like Roger Federer. Right now, Jokic is the hot commodity right now. Obviously, he's been dealing with injuries this past year. But who's your favorite tennis player?
Oh, man. Snap. I guess on the men's side, it really is. I really love Roger Federer. I guess out of the 3 legends right now, I love Roger, but I like watching a lot of young guys. On the women's side, Actually, I love watching Serena. Like, she's just been so dominant for so long. But watching some of the, the upcoming younger talents too it's been interesting to see because the change of guard hasn't quite happened yet. But you can start to see, I can see, like Madison Keys or Sloane Stephens start to work their way up, and you're like, I wonder what it's going to look like in a few years. But I guess two of the biggest names I actually really like. Those are my two favorite players, Serena and Roger.
Yeah, and good point you said that because in the women's guards, it feels like the Williams sisters are still dominating, even though they're supposed to fade out eventually. But
right.
But we haven't seen that next star yet.
Right. The big name or like the person who's like, oh, I see this person winning a few championships or stacking them on top of each other. That hasn't happened. You'll see maybe like a one-off, a person like, oh, I won the U.S. Open, and people are expecting big things. And then you don't hear for a while, and you're like, oh, what happened to that girl that won that championship at that time? And they just kind of fade in and out. The big ones like Serena or I'm blanking on the name right now. Well, Maria Sharapova, not so much in recent years, but even then, you think their names still more prevalent than some of the younger ones.
Yeah, it's definitely a sport that's on the rise. I know the other commentator in the sportscast, Tyler Turner, he's a huge tennis fan, and he usually, live tweets it whenever there's a big match, especially during Wimbledon and some other tournament, and also golf. He also live tweets on that one. Besides the Oregon game, but we'll talk about the Oregon game a little bit after. Iron Bowl this weekend. It's a bigger game than people first thought, especially after this weekend when Oregon lost. Things started to open up for Alabama a little bit. And they have a chance.
Right.
Paul Feinbaum said it this morning, and actually, this week has been saying that if Alabama wins this game, they could go to the playoffs. Brian, what are your thoughts about this game?
Well, you want me to say about the game in general or about that comment?
Let's go with that comment.
That comment? Yeah. Oh man. I think Paul, he has a point because I think so. When Alabama lost to LSU, I began to think that it doesn't look like Alabama's going to make it in, especially considering that a lot of people were talking about scheduling things and the fact that Alabama most likely was going to make the SEC championship game, and of course they aren't. And I feel like too many things are stacking up for them to not make it, especially with the Pac-12 nipping on the heels with two teams right in the top 10 as well. And so I thought my general was that if Oregon wins the conference championship, they're going to get to the playoffs. But as Paul said, with Oregon losing, that kind of diminishes the Pac-12's best chance to get into the playoffs because I don't think the committee would put Utah in over Alabama. And I'm actually predicting, I have a feeling that Utah's going to have some trouble against Colorado this week and might actually lose. But that'll actually be really interesting to see if that prediction comes true. So I guess you can clock that in right here on the show. But
no, that's good.
With Alabama. Yeah, go ahead.
Which we'll be having game predictions at the end of the show, so we'll be, you'll be calling out which team will win. But that's a good one. I've not heard that argument. Everyone on here in the sportscast, I predicted I predicted Utah to win that match.
Ooh, okay. We'll see if the minority of team wins that. But we'll see. We'll wait till we get there. But I say all that to say that. So with all those obstacles out of the way, with Oregon kind of making, the obstruction clear there because the committee called Alabama more of a placeholder team. If Alabama beats Auburn, I think convincingly, it's better than LSU did, and especially if they probably want to get at least a double-digit win, then I think they're going to have a really good chance of getting to the playoffs come selection time.
And, Brian, we got Justin Riley on the line. Justin, meet Brian. Welcome to the Sportscast.
Hey, guys. Hey, Brian. Nice to finally meet you. Enjoy talking to you during game days.
Yeah. No, I appreciated that too.
Yeah, so we were just talking about that Oregon, after their loss against Arizona State, it opens up a big possibility and increases the chances for Alabama to make the playoffs. Of course, they got to beat Auburn in Auburn, this so-called thing called the Iron Bowl. Do you believe in this statement, Justin? That especially from Paul Feinbaum. He's been talking about it all week. Well, can Alabama have a chance of going to the playoffs?
Well, now that Oregon has definitely opened that door, I don't see any reason why Alabama, should not be, out of the consideration for it. And yes, if they beat Auburn on the road, and they definitely deserve to be in the conversation and in the playoff. And The only thing is a lot of folks are saying that Alabama needs to beat Auburn by considerable in order to do this. I think that's bogus. And then the simple reason being is, one, we're playing with a backup quarterback, and we have 8 other starters who are out and who may or may not play, and they're on the road at Jordan-Hare. I don't care about margin of victory. Any team that can overcome that against their rival, they deserve to be in the talk for the playoff spot.
Brian, do you agree with that?
Man, I think it's hard for me. And the reason why I say that is that, well, I'll talk about it from the perspective of the way I think the committee will probably see it, at least in the sense that if you beat your opponent, you're just beating your opponent, like, that's great. Like, you won a game, a win should definitely count. But I think the manner in which you play, not necessarily, like, as people like to call it, style points, that's not necessarily what I'm going for, but the manner in which you play and how you beat an opponent, that can be a good indicator for how your team will look or project going forward. So I think if they don't beat Auburn in a somewhat convincing way, that'll kind of dock them a little bit when it comes to the selection process. Now, what I think, I guess personally on this sense, is that I think, as you said, without them being down a quarterback, and also a lot of defensive injuries, I think a lot of people don't know that 4 Alabama defensive linemen are dealing with injuries this week. I think a couple of them got cleared today. So, like, it will be interesting to see, like, even with the win, it's like, okay, Alabama can win even with guys down, like, and injured and banged up toward the end of the year without their starting quarterback. If they can pull that off, they'll be even better when they get a bit healthier going into the playoffs. So I guess I kind of half and half a little bit, I guess.
Now, with sticking with Brian, will a score margin matter?
I say a score margin will matter.
Justin?
Well, if you want to think logically, based on the point I just made, I don't think a score margin should matter. But will it matter? I think absolutely. I think this playoff committee is looking for a reason to put Alabama in, or I guess to say also put Alabama out. I think that a lot of these voters and majority of the sports nation outside the SEC and outside of Tuscaloosa are Bama fatigued, and they're really looking for a reason to keep Alabama out of the conversation. So, I think when it comes to their selection, like Brian was saying, the style points are going to matter, and they're going to have a reason to separate them from some of these other teams that are in contention for it, especially when you're looking at a one-loss Oklahoma team that presumably will go undefeated and win the Big 12, or a one-loss Utah team who presumably will go undefeated and win the Pac-12. So, in my eyes, I don't think the score margin should matter just based on all the injuries and just what we're dealing with. But let's just be real. The voters are going to be looking at style points in this one.
Yeah, the pundits are definitely talking about Alabama can win a field goal, and that could be enough to convince. Of course, playing in Auburn, a rivalry game, Auburn will definitely go full gear during this game. But the full focus will be Mac Jones. He's no Tua, he's no Justin Herbert, and he's no Jalen Hurts. Mediocre quarterback from Jacksonville, but he has weapons he could throw to. Brian, can Mac Jones pull through?
Well, it kind of cut out a little bit for me. Can you repeat that last part, the question you asked?
Yeah, we're talking about Mac Jones, and of course he has weapons. Can he pull through for Alabama?
It's hard to say, I think, very clearly, but based upon what I've seen so far with Mac Jones, he's not incompetent. He's not going to miss. He's not going to, what's what I'm looking for? He won't slow this offense down. Like, from what the play calling that I've seen, they're really good about getting Mac Jones in screen plays, hitting Jalen Waddle out there in a short screen, or hitting the same slants like RPO calls that they'll give to him. I think he'll be able to execute that really well. I think one of the things that we may not get as much is the explosive plays downfield that Tua usually brought. Like, one of the things that I noticed scouting Mac Jones early is that he's not as mechanically sound as Tua. And so on some of those deep throws, he kind of falls away a bit when he lets it go, and that usually causes the ball to sail. He missed one Jerry Jeudy against the Western Carolina game. And so those are the type of plays that you might miss. And you're like, oh, that really should have been something that was a dagger. But in terms of just getting the job done and being able to move the ball and score, I think Mac Jones can do it.
Justin, can Mac Jones handle the spotlight?
Well, first of all, you mentioned that he's mediocre. I think that it's really too early to say because, quite honest with you, Mac Jones is a mystery at this point. We've only seen him against two not so good teams, Arkansas and then, Western Carolina, which isn't saying a whole lot. And, we saw him briefly against Tennessee, briefly against Mississippi State. So he kind of is an enigma right now. But, look at it. He was a four-star quarterback recruited to the University of Alabama. So he's not there by accident. He's not some quarterback that just, had sit around in the storage room and decided to pull him out when things went wrong. He is throwing it for 15.2 yards per completion right now, which is obviously pretty good. And the biggest thing, you mentioned this earlier, you're comparing him to Tua, to Justin Herbert, and some other folks. He doesn't need to be them. He needs to be Mac Jones, and he needs to go into this game with that mindset. He needs to play within himself, and that's what all the coaches are preaching to him right now. And the biggest thing about Mac Jones is, like you said, he's got an astounding amount of playmakers around him. Let them do the work. Just call the plays, get them the ball, let them do all the work. There's no need for him to go above and beyond. If the game is flowing and he's feeling himself, then he can start to open things up. But, he doesn't really need to do more than he's asked of right now. But he's a very confident kid, and I think he can get the job done. Now, one of my questions is, how is he going to be able to handle the pressure he's going to be facing? Because, quite honestly, he hasn't faced pressure yet. He didn't face pressure against Arkansas. He didn't face pressure against Western Carolina. He's on the road in Jordan-Hare, which is a hellacious place to play. And then also, too, he's going up against one of the best defensive fronts, if not the best defensive front in the country. So he's going to have pressure, all day long. And if Alabama's offensive line can hold up and allow Mac Jones to do his thing and not have to improvise, I think Mac Jones can get it done. I'm confident in him, and I think he can get it done.
He does have the weapons around it. Definitely top draft picks in the future NFL drafts. A lot of talent in that team. So Mac Jones have no excuses. But of course, he needs to throw the ball, make good decisions, and make it through. And Auburn's defense is pretty good. Their front is pretty good. Brian, this Auburn team's 8-3. They've only lost to big teams. Georgia,
right,
Florida, and LSU. What do you expect from this Auburn team?
Man, I think one of the things that I expect coming out is that they always play Alabama with passion, of course. They play very hard. And Gus Malzahn seems to have we'll see this year, but usually their offense and the running game that they have usually works really, really well at trying to attack Alabama in a specific way. I always think back to the year with like Trey Mason and Nick Marshall. It was just like for a while Alabama's defense couldn't stop the inside dive. And I was like, man, that's great. And that was with players that you're like, okay, these guys know what they're doing in Nick Saban's defense. And so I think they're going to come into this game knowing that Alabama having a down year relative to Alabama's normal defensive numbers and standings, they're going to try to attack those inside guys. But I think one of the things that people are saying, or we're saying, is that, this Alabama's defense is bad. I'm like, that's wrong. They're good. They're just not as elite as the previous years. But it's going to play right into the hands of the Alabama's those young freshman linebackers. Their strength, which is being able to just react to the run. And so I'm interested to see if Gus is going to try to use Ruby Whitlow, to attack those young guys in the run game, like up the middle or like off the edge. But if that's not successful, is he going to let Bo Nix, keep the ball? Is he going to let Bo Nix try to attack the ball, around the middle of the field, or using the running back out of the backfield like LSU did? But the interesting thing about Bo Nix is that all year, against the good teams, or at least, against teams where, LSU, Florida, Georgia, he hasn't been effective. And will that change against Alabama? Well, the key will be is if Gus is going to let him off the chain, so to speak, and let him attack. And I'm interested to see if they're going to do that. But if they want to win, I think they're going to need to let him do that.
Justin, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, Bo Nix is the big X factor here. We all know just how great the Auburn defensive front is. And let's be honest, Derek Brown has carried that team and has been the heart and soul team. As a matter of fact, and some of the big games this year, he basically has taken the team on his shoulders and tried his best to put them in position to win. Unfortunately, the offense just wasn't able to assist him in doing that. But Bo Nix is the big X factor. His performances are all or nothing. The nothing has showed up in the big games. The all shows up in the less than games. Although he does have the incredible potential to just show up late in the game and is able to create some miracle drives and put Auburn within striking distance of beating these big teams, like he almost did against Georgia. He was able to do it against Oregon. The big thing is, Alabama is going to have to be very smart on the defense and not let him get those extra plays. They're going to have to tackle well. They're going to have to know their assignments and not make dumb mistakes. I think they're going to key on the run, which is their strong suit right now. But they also have a tendency to allow quarterbacks to run around and get extra. I mean, look what they did against Mississippi State. They allowed Stevens to rush for 100 yards, and I think that Bo Nix is a much better runner than Tommy Stevens. So Alabama's just going to have to be smart and play their assignments well, and just not give up any plays. And the thing is, like Brian mentioned, this isn't the typical elite defense that we're accustomed to, and it really feels like right now the stars are aligned for Auburn, to win at home. And interesting stat, against Auburn since 1989, when both teams are ranked, Alabama is 0-6. So, but yeah, Bo Nix is the key to this game, and are we going to allow him to become an Auburn legend, or are we going to slow him down and do what other teams have done in these big games? Biggest thing is Alabama needs to make him make mistakes. Alabama is ranked very highly when it comes to turnover margin. That's something they need to utilize against Bo Nix.
Brian, if you had to play out this game, what's going to happen?
Yeah. Okay, that's a hard one. I'll say
5 minutes. Okay.
No. What I'll say is that what's going to happen probably is that Mac Jones at the beginning of this game is going to have to get adjusted. I think Auburn's front is going to surprise Alabama's offensive line in the beginning, and Mac Jones is going to deal with pressure for the first time, like as Justin was saying a little bit earlier. And the key is we're going to have to see like Mac kind of get settled in. But I think Steve Sarkisian, one thing I appreciate about him as an offensive coordinator is that he'll switch up what he's doing if the defense is coming out with something that's kind of fairly effective against what he's doing. So if he's trying to give Mac Jones some opportunities to work down the field a little bit, he'll switch it up and throw some screens and some slants to kind of make some space. Now the key is I think Mac Jones, he has confidence in himself as being a starter. He's not always great in anticipating his throws, but I think if he gets into a rhythm of completing some screens to Jerry Waddle and, he goes for 70 yards like he did last week, something like that can really boost morale of the team early. One thing that I think Alabama will want to do for sure is, even though they believe in Mac Jones, is establish the running game. And my first prediction for when Tua went down was that if Mac Jones is to start moving forward, then Alabama's going to rely heavily on Najee Harris. And I think we've seen that already. And I don't think Alabama wants to go away from that starting out in this game. They'll probably want to establish Najee Harris first, then build off, give Mac Jones short passes and play action intermediate. Hopefully he can hit a deep one. But from what I think is going to happen after that point, though, is that Auburn, they're going to still put up a fight. I don't think this game's going to be terribly like high score or anything like that. At least, on both teams, I don't see it getting. If it does get to 30, I don't expect it to be, like high 30s. I expect it to be maybe like 31 at the most for either team. And I think Alabama actually pulls out the win because I don't believe Bo Nix will be able to be as effective, even if he has a late game kind of like magician fool that he does. I don't see him being able to pull out some great effectiveness and pushing them over the top, because he'll have to do that against Alabama's pass defense, which is the strength of the defense, actually. Passing defense, at least in the secondary, is the strength. And he'll have to be patient and work his way down the field. And I don't know if he's ready to do that as a true freshman. Whereas Mac Jones, he's been in the program 3 years. And I think by the rhythm they've set with the running game and short passes early, I think they'll be able to do just enough to get by in this game.
Justin, will Alabama who will Alabama rely on to get this going, and especially for offense? You think Najee Harris has to run a lot in the beginning?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm going to piggyback a little bit. Brian said, Najee Harris is on fire right now. So you got to let your workhorse lead. He's averaging 6 yards a carry right now, and 12.1 yards per catch. He's ran for 9 touchdowns in the last 5 games. He's finally becoming that elite back that we've been waiting on, and it's happening at the right time. So, they need to rely heavily on him to start things out. Auburn is going to be loading the box. They are going to be expecting the run. But they're just going to have to pop them out, ease Jones in. The run's is not working right off the bat, then just like Brian was saying, throw the short passes. Get Najee involved in space and let him do the work. The biggest thing is, don't put Mac Jones in any positions that he shouldn't be put in. And honestly, Steve Sarkisian is really good about putting his quarterbacks in the right places. Unlike Gus Malzahn, who seemingly is the exact opposite and has been that way in several of the big games when it came to Bo Nix. So it's going to be loud early. The tension is going to be high. Mac Jones is going to be jittery, as he should be in a situation like this. The biggest thing is just chip away, and until you can start hitting the big plays. And I think it's going to be back and forth. It's not going to be a high scoring. I think the first person to 30 or 31, like Brian said, is probably going to win the game. It's going to come down to who makes mistakes. My question is how healthy is DJ Dale going to be, and Raekwon Davis and Fedarian Mathis? Those are the 3 defensive linemen that Brian mentioned earlier, who have been out but have been in practice this week, and those are very important players up front. So, and like I said too, Alabama's just going to have to play mistake-free ball. They're going to have to know their assignments, because one of the things they did against LSU, they had guys covering people. They had guys covering. There was one specific play where Clyde Edwards-Helaire was lined up out wide. There were 3 defenders covering him. Meanwhile, Jamar Chase and others are running wild and free. You can't do that. And don't let Bo Nix get more than he should. Don't let him start running around and then just abandon what you're doing, and all of a sudden you've got Eli Stowe or Seth Williams or Schwartz running free. Just play smart, technically sound football. I think we need to blitz a little bit more than we have in this game. But it's just going to come down to who can make the fewest mistakes, and it depends on if Mac is going to be able to rise to the occasion and just let it come to him naturally.
Yeah, I think that's going to happen with Mac Jones. I mean, he has the pieces around him. Keep in mind, Auburn has not allowed more than 24 points this year. They played big games. They played way tougher schedule than Alabama. I mean, if you had to grade on that, for sure. I mean, they got LSU, I think, was 21-23 was the game? 23-20. Really close by 3 points. LSU is one of the best teams in the country. Georgia only lost by a touchdown, 21-14. So, Auburn is, even though, 3 losses, but they lost against good teams. So this is going to be an interesting match, and I'm pretty ecstatic. Any closing words of this game, Brian?
Yeah. I think the only thing I'll say, something that you'll want to watch out for is like, as Justin was alluding to, and as I said earlier, Alabama has Raekwon Davis, Brian Ray, DJ Dale, and Fadarian Mathis all dealing with injury. And DJ Dale is the most questionable according to Saban's press conference earlier tonight. And so I think if they start that game with those guys banged up or not even playing, Auburn might take advantage with the run. And if that happens, that actually might throw my prediction off a lot. And so I think that's something to look out for, Alabama's health.
Justin, closing words on this Alabama Iron Bowl against versus Auburn.
I definitely agree with what he said. The biggest thing for Alabama is two things that they need to take a look at. One, they've been heavily disrespected the entire week. Actually, the past 2 weeks since Tua went down. They've been pretty much written off for dead. They've been pretty much told, okay, you got zero chance of being in the playoffs, nor do you even belong anywhere near it. And a lot of people have already saying, it's a foregone conclusion. Auburn's going to win this game. And then, two, you got jackasses like Stephen A. Smith going on national television making a complete joke about Mac Jones.
Wow.
So they're being disrespected there, I get, it may be the widely held opinion by a lot of folks. They don't want to see Mac Jones. They want to see Tua Tagovailoa. Hey, Alabama fans want to see Tua Tagovailoa as well. But the thing is, there's a right and a wrong way to do it, and big surprise, Stephen A. Smith chose the wrong way to express that. Okay, so they've been disrespected, but also, too, they got to look at what they're being told. Oh, you got to win by a wide margin. You got to blow the doors off of them. Use the disrespect to your advantage, but also don't let what you're being told of having to score style points overshadow what needs to be done. Their main focus needs to be beat Auburn first. If they beat them by a wide margin, great. But focus on beating Auburn first and let it fall where it needs to fall. And then after that, it's up to the possible chaos ensuing outside of there and chips falling where they may. But control what you can control. That's one thing Coach Saban has always said. We're going to control what we can control, and for them, right now, that's Auburn.
The game has to be played. Iron Bowl Saturday will be the game. Vegas, good news, guys. Vegas has Alabama winning by 3. So that doesn't make you feel comfortable. I don't know what else. Well,
it actually went higher to 3.5.
3.5, yeah. Now I'm reading it now, 3.5. So it's looking good for Alabama. Obviously, 3.5. That could be 3-point margin of error, so things could swing. But, yeah. We'll definitely see what happens. These Alabama-Auburn games, almost every game I've seen, especially in Auburn, tend to be very exciting. And who knows? It could be bigger than the Ohio State versus Michigan, I think. But this is interesting how things are kind of panning out. Anyways, this is the time of the show where we do game predictions. Are you ready, guys?
Yeah, I think so.
Brian, we'll start with you first. Texas A&M at LSU.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
You know what? I was thinking about being funny with this one, but no, I'm gonna go ahead and actually say that this game is gonna be LSU 34, Texas A&M 27.
Justin Riley.
Well, I definitely think that it's not going to be the thriller like it was last year with the 7 overtimes. But I think the score is going to be a little bit too close for comfort. I think it's going to be a tight game. LSU right now is on the back end of everything. They're looking ahead. They're thinking SEC title. They're thinking about playoffs. So they're going to be a little bit distracted, but I think LSU will find a way to win 31-28.
Which they dropped to number 2 in the college football playoffs, but that doesn't matter because things could change in 2 weeks. Ohio State and Michigan, Brian, who you got?
I have Ohio State winning this matchup. Ohio State's been really balanced all year. They just the offense and defense are ranked very high, even in advanced metrics. Whereas Michigan's defense, when the year first started, their offense significantly. Their defense, did fairly well. And I was like, okay, you know what? Like they're an okay team, but they probably won't be great. But they slowly start to get better as the season progressed. Their passing offense might be slightly better than it was at the beginning, but I don't see that being enough to actually beat Ohio State. But I do think this game will actually be similar to that Penn State game last week, actually. And I'm going to go Ohio State 24, Michigan 14.
And Harbaugh's job is on the line, rumored. Justin, who you got at the big house?
Well, to be honest with you, the big house. Honest with you, man, I've been going back and forth with this one all week. The interesting thing about this game is that all of a sudden Michigan has actually found an offense. They're actually starting to produce some yards and some points. And apparently Shea Patterson has been resurrected from the dead, and he's starting to look like that high-profile quarterback that he was projected to, in the preseason this year and then the preseason last year. He's thrown for 300-plus yards now all of a sudden. So is this something that we're going to see on a consistent basis? And is this something we're going to see against Ohio State? Yeah, I don't know. And, like Brian said, Ohio State is balanced as can be. I mean, they are textbook right now, both sides of the ball. And the thing is, man, this could go either way. And, you want to go with the team that looks like that they are the alpha. They look like they're the Greek gods here going against the humans. But this is a rivalry game. This is one of the top rivalry games in the country, and it could go either way. I'm going to go with Michigan with the upset.
Ooh.
28-24.
Now, like what I've been hearing, like Ohio State can't afford. Could afford. Ohio State could lose this game and still be in the top 4, right?
Well, absolutely. And even if they're not, I mean, they still go to the Big Ten championship.
Yeah.
They win that, they're right back in the thick of things again. So, I mean, and technically, yeah, they could afford a loss, but I'm sure that's not something they're thinking about. They're just, out to do it by all means necessary.
Which they might face Minnesota, so it should be interesting. Clemson at South Carolina. Brian, who you got?
Clemson at South Carolina. Oh, man. This is another one of those games because it's rivalry week. And I'm like, does Will Muschamp pull out a surprise and get his team to finish 5-7? No, I think this is a weird one because I think South Carolina is better than their record shows. Like they have talent, and when they actually play, they look better than their record would suggest. I don't think it's good enough to beat Clemson, obviously. But this game probably end up being a lot closer than I think. I'm actually going to predict it that way. I don't think it's going to get too high scoring either. I think it's going to stay in the middle 20s. I'm going to say Clemson 27, South Carolina 23.
Pretty close. Justin, will Clemson slide through this game as well?
Well, like Brian said, South Carolina is a lot better than the record indicates, and they really should be ashamed of themselves for what they've produced on the field this year. It seems like when things, started to not go their way, they just said, you know what, screw it. And they just checked out. And they haven't, played up to potential in my mind. At least I don't think. But I think they will be dialed in for this game because it is Clemson. If you're not dialed in for your rival, you don't need to be playing college football. However, I think Clemson is going to be more dialed in. I think Dabo Swinney is going to have them ready, have them fired up. And he's also fueling them with all the disrespect and hate they've been receiving all year from everybody. And also they've been completely ignored by everybody. They're not even being mentioned. They're not even considered as a possible national champion. And they're the defending champion. Yes, they haven't played a desirable schedule, but they're being completely ignored by everybody. And that's being fed into them as well. This game isn't close. Dabo's going to have them ready. They're going to come out. They're going to win 52-14.
Wide margin compared to Brian's. Georgia at Georgia Tech. Brian, who you got?
Okay, man, I'm gonna keep my theme of close games. But this is more so because of Georgia's offense. So Georgia, I think the thing that Georgia's been struggling with all year is that they have an elite defense and their offense is so-so. And this reminds me of it seems like Georgia's playing in 2011 right now. And that's interesting because I'm wondering how this is going to work out. So their offense is really young, like their receivers, those true freshmen, those guys they haven't really developed as fast as I think the offense coordinators and the staff wanted them to. And so at times, they've really struggled to move the ball. They've had crazy drops. Guys are on different pages, like Jake Plum and the receiver different pages. I think the true freshman Pickens was hurt for a while, but he started to come along a little bit, toward the end of the year. But I don't think their offense is going to drastically get that much better as this year closes out. But their defense is always really great. So I'm going to say Georgia wins convincingly, but not in terms of like a super big score. I'm going to say Georgia 24, Georgia Tech 7.
Justin, can Georgia Tech beat Georgia and help out Alabama?
Absolutely not. The thing about Georgia is, and Brian, you may have seen this entire season. It feels like that Georgia plays down to whatever the level their opponent is. But also, too, if the game's not meaningful, it's like Georgia. This is what their body language is telling me. It's like Georgia could care less about being there. So they play unenthused, and they feel like they do just enough to win. And we saw how well that did against South Carolina. So,
right.
but Georgia Tech still isn't good enough to be able to pull an upset like this. Yes, they are going. Georgia will win by a convincing margin, and my score will be similar to what Brian's is. I say Georgia wins 27-7.
Let's go out to the West. Colorado at Utah. Brian, who you got?
All right, this is a spicy one. I'm going to.
Yeah, this is a good one, Justin. You're going to like this one.
Okay. I think my only upset of the day, I have a weird feeling. I always tell myself to go with the feeling that I have when I get a feeling that a team's going to beat the team, and it's usually right. And right now, that's telling me that Colorado's actually going to pull out a win against Utah. And the reason why I kind of get the feeling that I really like Mel Tucker. I remember he was at Alabama, and then of course he was with Kirby up there in Georgia. They really like him over there. Those guys tend to play hard, and their record right now is 5-6. And so, of course, one more win will get them bowl eligible. I think that's going to be a big part of being able to, to have that motivation in this game, and also just being able to knock out a conference opponent's dreams of going to the playoffs. So the interesting thing is that in the middle of the season, they lost 5 games in a row. Colorado did, and they were fairly close margins for I guess like 3 out of the 5. But they've won the last 2 against Stanford and Washington, albeit not great teams, but close games. And the big part is they were able to kind of control what their opponents did best. And Utah's best thing on offense is running the ball. Colorado's opponents are averaging about 4.4, about 4.5 rushing, yards per attempt, which isn't a crazy high number. I think if they're able to keep Utah there, I think they'll be able to keep the game fairly low scoring, and they tend to pull out scrappy wins. I'm going to predict that Utah won't be able to establish a run as well as they normally do, even though their defense is really good, and this game is actually going to be really, really low scoring. I'm actually going to say Colorado pulls out the win 17-14 against Utah.
Colorado pulls the upset. Would Justin concur with that, or he'll pick like everyone else, Utah?
Man, it's just really funny for Utah right now, man, because all of a sudden, they're top dog. They're
talking to town. They're the new person. They got, they're part of the 5-16 VIP club right now.
That's it. Hey, some people already got them in the top 4. It's a foregone conclusion. Utah is it right now. And the thing is, I don't think they're ready for all that. I don't think they're ready for all that hype.
All the glamour.
I've been thinking the same thing Brian has, and I think that Utah is going to fall to Colorado.
Wow, that is interesting. They just saw this as a trap game. Anyways, let's go back to the Oklahomas. Oklahoma at Oklahoma State. Jalen Hurts. Brian, what do you got in this game?
Man, okay. This is going to be a fun one to watch. I definitely got it circled. Oklahoma State has Chuba can never say his name out completely. But Chubba Hubbard over there, you know.
Hubba bubba.
Yeah, Hubba Bubba, whatever. You can't get it out, whatever it is. But he's doing a great job. Like, he's got everybody's attention. But so the interesting thing is that Oklahoma State being, you know, a heavy run team for once is always interesting to see. But Oklahoma's defense, while they kind of had a few issues faltering down the stretch, they've shown this year that they're kind of tenacious and they attack the ball really well. I think Alice Grinch really brought a different perspective to them this year, and they've adapted to that. So I think if this was last year, I think this game would have been like even more juicy to watch. But I think with Jalen Hurts, you know, the mentality that this Oklahoma team has, like they don't give up. They don't. They get hit and they go, okay, like this, we're not done. We know we can keep fighting for it. And so I think Oklahoma's defense is actually going to come out inspired to prove that, you know, we're not that same defense from last year. We want to continue to show what we were showing, especially early on in the season as we kind of pull up in the second half of the Baylor game. I think they're actually going to be able to constrain Oklahoma State's run game. With that said, I don't think they'll be able to completely stop it. They haven't really been good at completely stopping a lot of teams in general this year. But I think Oklahoma wins the game. They're able to play ball control. Jalen Hurts is a man. Like the amount of strength that he has in his body, being able to run the ball as much as he did, like in that Baylor game, I think they can just take over the game and win the time of possession. I think this game, because of all the running, will actually be shortened, and therefore the scores won't be terribly high. I'm going to say Oklahoma 35, Oklahoma State 27.
I agree. It's going to be a high-scoring game. Justin, do you also have the same faith for Jalen Hurts to beat Oklahoma State?
Man, I always have faith in Jalen Hurts, man. I'm an Alabama guy. And plus, you know, Jalen Hurts just has the incredible ability just to will a team to win. It's just like an inevitable thing for Oklahoma, you know, being led by Jalen Hurts. No matter what situation he's in, he's going to get them there. You know, I've been going back and forth with this game, you know, all week and maybe even before. You know, the biggest thing that's put doubts in my mind about Oklahoma is, you know, yes, they have been winning, but it's been too close for comfort. You know, that they've been escape artists, and they've been very lucky, just to be quite honest. And the thing is, they can't keep doing that, you know, especially against their rival. And Oklahoma State can look great one game, or maybe even two, then all of a sudden they'll bomb and they look awful and they lose to a team that they shouldn't lose to. So, you know, I just kind of wonder, you know, which Oklahoma State team we're going to see. The thing is, yeah, they got the best running back in the nation in Chuba Hubbard. You know, he really should be getting more Heisman love than he is. Even though it basically is the battle for second place right now. Let's just be quite honest. But and Oklahoma's problem is defense. They can't stop anything. They couldn't stop, you know, a team of 90-year-old grandmas on walkers crossing the street. Prove me wrong.
Maybe this game will happen.
It quite possibly can, but, you know, I'm not going to bet against Jalen. I think Jalen is probably the most motivated guy in college football. I mean, the guy's working out after games, you know, until like 10 o'clock at night because, you know, he was displeased in the performance, even if they won convincingly. So, you know what, Jalen's is going to guide this team to a victory. Oklahoma will win. It's going to be a high-scoring affair. It'll be 45-41 Oklahoma, and Jalen's going to get them to that championship.
And Oklahoma, of course, are in the running to get into that last playoff spot. They're still in the running, but they still have to see a little bit more chaos. So we'll see if Auburn can pull through. Anyways, Wisconsin and Minnesota, Big Ten. Brian, who you got for up in the Upper Midwest?
Man, the Upper Midwest. I really, really like. I want to see Minnesota get to the championship game. PJ Fleck's done a great job up there. I just have a feeling Wisconsin's like waiting, like pounce, like they're like ready to come back.
They're a sleeper.
Those early boxes. Yeah, and of course with Jonathan Taylor in that run game is always great. And Minnesota being in PJ Fleck's third year, right? Like they started to recruit some of their guys. You know, they started to turn around. They're not that big, you know, that strong either. Like at least like just at the point of contact. I think this would be Wisconsin as a team. I think that matches up with them well on that front. If Wisconsin's able to just establish the running game and just bully them, they can keep the ball away. As talented as those receivers are, like Tatum, I can't remember the other receiver's name. Like, they're both really, really good. I think 5-point catches against Penn State, and the quarterback as well, Tanner Morgan. But if they can't get on the field and establish that offense because of Wisconsin's dominant running game, I think it's weird to say Wisconsin is probably like Minnesota's sleeper game at this point. So I'm actually gonna say Wisconsin pulls out the victory against Minnesota here. I'm gonna say 27-21.
27-21. Someone named Allison Lee Clonch says, "Hey Juice." I'm not sure who's she referring to Brian or Justin. Not me. I'm not named Juice. Neither of you two. Justin, are you the Juice?
The Juice?
I guess not.
Actually, I do have to claim that. But I actually used to work with Allison back in the day, Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and my nickname there, believe it or not, was Juicy J.
Juicy J. Wow.
Yes, after 3-6 Mafia's famous Juicy J. I don't have quite the fame that he has, but in the Enterprise circuit, I guess I had a little bit, and that was the nickname that was given to me, and so that explains that.
And can you explain what's going to happen with Wisconsin at Minnesota?
It's going to be boring. That's what's going to happen. Last week I saw Wisconsin struggling against Purdue, and Purdue's not good at all. I haven't been sold on Wisconsin all year. They really are just a one-dimensional, one-hit team, and that's Jonathan Taylor. I mean, he's the best running back in college football, and that's pretty much up the middle to left to right, whatever. But the thing is, nobody can stop him. So go with what works. But I think, honestly, I think he's going to get his yards. There's no question about that. But I think that Minnesota continues to ride the wave of success that they've been having this year, and they're going to pull it out, and they're going to go to the Big Ten championship. And I think they're going to win 28-27.
Minnesota. Okay, this game is a little bit low-key, but we'll keep it quick because of time. Rutgers at Penn State, Brian.
I'm going ahead and say that Penn State stomps this one easily. I got Penn State 31, Rutgers 10.
Justin Riley, who you got? Rutgers at Penn State.
Well, actually, when those words just left your mouth, Penn State just scored a touchdown. They haven't started playing yet. I think it's safe to say Penn State wins this one by 50.
All right, let's go back to the Pac-12. Of course, Oregon State at Oregon, and Herbert had a terrible game. If you saw Brian's video, Brian, will Oregon come back and win, or does Oregon State have a shot?
I think after this loss, Oregon's probably going to right the ship a little bit, or they could fall apart. But I think Mario Cristobal, I remember he was at Alabama. I wasn't the biggest fan of him coaching the offensive line, but as a head coach, he seems to kind of have him in the right direction. They'll probably get reoriented, and I see Oregon coming out and beating Oregon State. I think Justin Herbert sometimes needs to be shaken up, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, I can actually play with all the talent that I have." I think Oregon wins this game, maybe 45-14.
Sounds pretty high scoring match. Justin, who you got between Oregon State at Oregon?
Well, I think Oregon, since they got hit in the mouth, I think they realized that you actually have to show up to games to win, and you're not guaranteed a victory, because they certainly this past week didn't play like a team who was focused and driven and is playing for a Pac-12 championship was on the line. So they just kind of showed up, and they got dropped. However, I think they get refocused this week against their rival, and I think that they win 35-7.
Notre Dame at Stanford, Brian.
Notre Dame at Stanford. I feel like Stanford could make this one interesting, and Notre Dame is they're like an interesting team, so I think they kind of fluctuate between average and above average as a team. but they tend to be pretty technically sound when they're playing. I think Notre Dame, while they may not score a ton, they'll probably win fairly comfortably, even though they score as well. So I'm going to say Notre Dame 20, Stanford 13.
Justin Riley, will Notre Dame win in Stanford and Palo Alto?
I'm not particularly excited about this game, so I'll keep it brief. Notre Dame will win because they're Irish, and that's what they do.
This game is low-key, but it is interesting. Some talk on the internet. Cincinnati at Memphis, Brian. Who do you think will win that one?
Wait, say it again. Who in Memphis?
Cincinnati at Memphis.
Cincinnati, man. I know that one's interesting. I feel like it should have been getting more talk, seeing as how successful both teams have been. Cincinnati still has I think they're only a one-loss team. They've been doing pretty well. I think I'm going to say actually Cincinnati keeps the train rolling, and they actually say this is like a mid-20s game. Cincinnati wins 27, Memphis 24.
How about you, Justin? Who you got between Cincinnati at Memphis?
Yeah, this is a really low-key game just because, they're a Power 5 conference. But the thing is, you got two of the best Power 5 teams out there. And if you haven't had a chance to watch Memphis play, you really are missing out, from a college football standpoint. I mean, it's high quality. But here lately, it looks like Memphis has just been playing their games a little too close to comfort. But the thing is, though, I think that they kick it back in high gear. They got an incredible running game, a dominant running game. And I think that they go wild in this game, and I think that Memphis will win 35-17.
Brian is the only one that's chosen Cincinnati, so and everyone else has picked Memphis. I'm really interested if Cincinnati will come through. And this is not the Bengals, guys. This is the Bearcats. So this is not.
This is the Bearcats. Huh?
It's not the Red Rifle team.
Matt Norval's interviewing for his big job right now, so he's going to keep him winning.
Back to the Big Ten. The Big Ten. Iowa at Nebraska. Brian, let's go with you first.
Iowa at Nebraska. Iowa's interesting. I think that they're always tough, and Kirk Ferentz does a great job. Nathan Stanley, I feel like I always want to see more from him, but they just tend to pull out when there's some type of gritty toughness that they have. I'm going to say Iowa probably wins this game. They don't ever score crazy high numbers. I want to say Iowa wins this game 21, Nebraska 17.
Justin, will you pick Iowa as the rest of the Sportscast members have?
Yeah, I will. I'm actually very disappointed in Nebraska this year because they just greatly under. God, what's the even accurate word? I mean, underperformed, I guess, would be the nice way to say it. But Iowa, I feel like their quarterback is just chained, and he's only allowed to do what is required to win the game instead of really letting him loose. It doesn't change here, and Iowa wins a boring game, 17-14.
Virginia Tech and Virginia. Whoever wins this match will go to the ACC Championship. Brian, who is going to the ACC Championship between Virginia Tech and Virginia?
I know. That's an interesting one. This is the matchup because, rivalry game determines who wins. I always have a lot of confidence in Virginia Tech. Maybe this over the years it's been so consistent. But, I think so the interesting thing is that I think in terms of points per game, Virginia actually scores like 3 more points per game, and they both allow about the same amount of points per game from their opponents. They seem to be really close, except that Virginia has a little bit better passing game, whereas Virginia Tech has a better rushing game. Passing games tend to travel better, like just across the board. But this game is going to be, I think, at home for Virginia. I'm going to say that. No, it's the other way around. Virginia's at Virginia Tech, but I'm still going to go.
No, it's actually at Virginia. It's in Charlottesville.
Is it?
Yeah.
Got to look at it the other way around. Okay, yeah. I think I saw Virginia, and I mixed up the names there. But actually, yeah, with that being the case, I think that still makes it easier. I think Virginia actually wins this game.
And they will win on a Black Friday.
They win on Black Friday. I'm going to say they did. I'm going to actually say this win 31, Virginia Tech 30. Real close one.
Justin, who will win on Black Friday?
Not the audience. It's the battle for the best of the worst in the ACC. It's and their prize, Clemson. Woo! Congratulations!
Getting stopped.
Man, I'm telling you, I'm sure both teams are pretty excited about that. They're evenly matched. It really could go either way. I mean, this game could come down to just a simple mistake by the other squad. That being said, I'm going to go with Virginia Tech, 28-24.
You and Tyler have only chosen Virginia Tech. Ryan and Brian has chosen UVA, so it's a tie. It's a toss-up. This is what it looks like. But who between the two, who has a better chance to beat Clemson? Who's a better matchup?
Neither.
I'm going to say that I think Virginia has the better chance.
They have the edge.
Because I don't think Virginia Tech's run game will be as successful. I think because Virginia has a slightly better pass game, that gives them a slightly better chance, but a slightly better chance doesn't equate much to.
Let's go into Navy at Houston. A great Navy team having a great season. Houston also has some good talent. Brian, who do you got?
You know what? I want to go with Navy. Just the fact that option, man, is just so hard to prepare for. No matter how much practice, like you haven't played against it, it's just difficult to go up against. And I think Navy pulls it out. I think just typical, close game like they used to, but of course they didn't dominate the right game. I want to say Navy win 20-17.
Justin, do you concur? Will Navy win? Everyone's chosen Navy. Will you do the same?
Got to, man. Got to be patriotic here.
Man.
Navy seems to be on a roll as of late. So, and I love that offense. I know it's a little outdated, but, man, I've always been a fan of that option of offense. So, yeah, I'm going with the Cadets.
Florida at Florida State. Florida State with an interim coach. Brian, who do you have in that game?
Florida State is going to win.
No way.
At losing. No, they're going to win at losing. No, they're not. I'm sorry. You're like, wait a minute, like what?
If Brian sees something that we're not seeing, I mean, I can understand that.
No. I do not see Florida State being able to do much in this game. It's so lopsided. The ESPN FPI has Florida at a 91% chance to win.
Wow.
But,
I should never put this in the game predictions. But it's rivalry week, so I had to.
Yeah, no. So here's the thing. I think it comes down to just that Florida's defense is actually just really good. They only allow about 14 points per game. With Florida State's defense, nowhere near that point. And that's not saying that Florida's offense is horrible either. But Florida's offense has starting to come along. A lot of people don't realize that Trask in that passing game, even if their running game isn't that great, have been serviceable. And so I think they'll be able to do that. Because Florida State gives up almost 300 yards passing per game. And I think Florida's just going to win this game. I'm going to give it the score of Florida 30, Florida State 17.
Pretty wide margin. Justin, are you going to choose Florida, I imagine?
Yeah, I absolutely have to.
Or FSU has some life.
Well, they'll show signs of life. I mean, they're going to get up for it. They're probably going to hang around longer than they really should. But to be honest with you, I don't see Dan Mullen's squad having a letdown here. They're playing for a New Year's Day bowl. They have a whole lot on the line. I don't see them falling flat. And they're playing really good ball right now. Yeah, they had some losses that they really could have won. They played extremely well against LSU, and if it weren't for a few mistakes, they really could have won that game. They played Georgia very well, and the problem is they didn't show up until the second half. And if they would have played two halves inspired like they did, that one half, it could have been a different outcome as well. But the thing is, as good as they're playing, they're not quite at that level yet. They're almost there. This is just another step in that direction. They're going to beat their rival 35-10, and they'll be headed to a very good bowl game.
Out of curiosity, Brian, who do you think will be the next coach for FSU?
Actually, I have no idea because I just don't know who wants to go to that job after seeing
Primetime does.
Yeah, primetime.
As far as it's going, it'd probably be him. But
yeah, I think here's the thing. I think it's a lot of coaches, or at least I've heard like rumblings here and there, that like they didn't really give the current coach enough time, really. And I think I tend to agree. It was a little rough over there. I think that the way Jimbo left, the way the program is where they are, I'm like, I don't know what was the expectation. And so I feel like they're grasping that straw, and I feel like a lot of coaches might be averted to going to that job, but we'll see.
Lastly and finally, the game of the weekend for you guys. It might be another game that's going on this weekend. The Iron Bowl, Alabama at Auburn. Brian, give us your final score and prediction.
Final score and prediction for this game. Oh, man. Okay, I'm going to say, as I was alluding to before, I think Alabama's going to work Mac Jones in slowly. Auburn defense is going to be ferocious. Auburn offense won't be able to get much going. I think every once in a while they might pull together a drive. They might take advantage of that youth in the linebacker. But I'm going to keep this game in the low 20s. I'm going to say Alabama wins this game 24. Auburn has 17.
24-17. Justin, give us an honest answer.
The honest answer is, man, just given everything that's been happening to Alabama, and this is just too close for comfort game. And like I mentioned earlier, I think for Auburn, it's just one of those games or one of those years where the stars are aligned and they're in a position to be able to do the improbable, and possibly beat, their rival at home. But I think that Auburn will actually probably get up early. I think Alabama, though, will eventually settle in. My biggest thing is how well is the offensive line going to play against that defensive front, especially against Derrick Brown and Marlon Davidson. And I'm going to give a little shout-out to Derrick Brown, to be honest with you. I know Chase Young is getting all the love right now, especially for the Heisman, and rightly so. But good gosh, what man has done more for this team than Derrick Brown? This is a guy who should be considered for the Heisman. But anyway, that's just going down a rabbit hole. But anyway, it's going to come down to who makes the fewest mistakes. And I really want to see if Raekwon Davis is going to be able to go. I want to be able to see if DJ Dell is going to be able to go. And also I want to see if Henry Ruggs is going to be 100%. I don't really know how severe his injury was. But the biggest thing is getting Mac Jones comfortable and doing the right things. I think Alabama is going to have a nail-biter, and I think they'll end up winning in the end 21-14.
21-14, Alabama wins. And the sports guys, a split decision. Brian and Justin pick Alabama. Ryan and Tyler pick Auburn. I don't think there's any correlation. That's just what they think. I'm not sure if they're thinking objectively or they're thinking like they just don't like Alabama. But we'll see if God has favor with Alabama again this year. There've been a few times these past 10 years where they came out of nowhere, made it to the playoffs without going to the SEC championship. So we'll see if God favors them again. But I'm not putting God in the middle of sports, right? That's not good. It's not fair. Anyways, tomorrow is Thanksgiving. Let's go to the NFL. There is games tomorrow to watch. It's professional. Brian, who do you have between the Bears at the Lions?
Bears at the Lions. I'm actually going to go. Matthew Stafford's been out. Although was that Driscoll that's been in for him?
Yep, that's Driscoll.
Yep. Over Stafford.
That's so surprising to me to see Jeff Driscoll in the league doing well because like at Florida it just seemed like a struggle. Actually, they've been doing like really solid with him in there. But I'm actually gonna go with the Bears in this matchup. Fairly low scoring Bears defense is good. I'm gonna say 20 Bears, but 17 Lions.
Chicago wins in Detroit. Justin, who wins in Detroit tomorrow for Thanksgiving? The winner gets a
Not
turkey.
the people who are watching. Well, I think when are we going to get a marquee game on Thanksgiving? It's like every single year, the decision makers decide to sit in a room and say, okay, what's the most craptacular matchup we can possibly assemble for Thanksgiving? And then, and boom, here you got it.
It's hard to project season, but I'll say that.
Man, wow. I mean, I don't know what's going to be worse, the indigestion from the turkey or watching both these teams go at each other. If I had to pick, right now, I'm going with the Detroit Lions, led by running back Bo Scarborough.
I've heard of him.
Bo Scarborough.
Oof. Which actually, a whole lot of the fantasy people are saying get him on your fantasy, but that's another day to talk about, another podcast. But I honestly think these other two games are pretty Thanksgiving worthy. The Bills at the Cowboys. Brian, who you got? Josh Allen or Dak Prescott?
This is gonna be a fun one. So it's a little bit hard because Dallas is not an NFL team. That's a family tradition there. This game is gonna be interesting because the Bills out of nowhere this year and kind of silently have been like a solid team. It's like, okay. Like seeing them kind of come up. I'm actually going to go. I'm going to say that Cowboys win this game, especially after last week. They're going to try to right the ship here. Amari Cooper is probably going to come back ready to prove it. I love Amari Cooper. I still to this day say he was hands down the best draft for wide receiver in that 2014 draft, even though they tried to make Kevin White, the number one pick. But Cooper is amazing. I think he's going to be able to make a difference here in this game. And Dak in the passing game going to get back on track, even if it's not going to be I think it's going to be a crazy scoring game. I'm going to say Dallas 27, the Bills 24.
A lot of Alabama players present tomorrow. Justin, who you got between the Cowboys and the Bills in AT&T Stadium in Dallas, Texas? The Dallas.
Man, who are these Bills? I mean, where'd they come from, man? All of a sudden, Josh Allen is doing all right.
The best.
I think what's happening is Frank Gore is just willing the Bills to win. He's got some mystical power. He's just making it happen. His Frank Gore-ness is just carrying them to this legendary place they hadn't seen in a long time. However, I will say the Dallas Cowboys right now, they mad. I mean, they're really mad right now because they really should have won that game against New England, and they've got a lot of criticism coming their way right now. And, Amari's mad. He didn't get a whole lot of touches here recently, which I still don't get. And Dak's pretty mad too. So I think the Cowboys are going to come out and unleash hell on the Bills. So Cowboys will win 35-7.
And lastly, the Saints at the Falcons. Brian, who you got?
This year, man. But, yeah.
I mean, didn't the Falcons beat them a couple weeks ago? Yeah, I think so.
They did, but the 3-8 overall was so crazy. And I think the Saints going to have that in mind. With that matchup, I think the Saints come out tomorrow and they beat the Saints. I mean, they beat the Saints. Saints beat the Saints. Saints beat the Falcons. I think pretty handedly. Actually, I'm going to say the Saints get this game 28, Falcons 10.
Will Justin go with Julio Jones and the Falcons?
Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley and the Falcons.
Right.
You know what? The Falcons caught the Saints napping, here recently. Not again. The Saints are fired up. Drew Brees is fired up, and that man is ready to get to the Super Bowl. So they cruise past the Falcons in this game.
And there you have it. That's our Thanksgiving prediction. Big weekend in college football. Random question, Brian. Favorite Thanksgiving food item? The options are turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes with gravy, or pumpkin pie. What is your favorite Thanksgiving food item?
You said turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes with gravy, or pumpkin pie?
And pumpkin pie, yeah.
Oh, out of those four, those wouldn't be any of my first choices, actually. But out of those four, I'm I know. Surprising people. I'm actually gonna go with a deep fried turkey.
Deep fried
Best
turkey.
turkey I've ever seen.
Justin Riley, what's your favorite thing to munch on Thanksgiving? Out of these
All
four
of
options.
because I'm a fat kid at heart. I'm a power lifter, so I got to eat. Well, I think my top two are the turkey and the stuffing because, quite frankly, those are the cornerstones of Thanksgiving. If you screw up one or the other, the whole thing's ruined. That's just the way it is, and that's the way it is in the South. At least in my family, how I was raised. But the root of the tree here is turkey, man. If you don't have a good turkey, the rest doesn't matter. A strong dressing can pull things together, but man, it starts with a turkey. So I have to go with the turkey.
And is turkey a good source of protein, Justin?
Absolutely. It's a lean meat, great source of protein. Yeah, I mean.
Hello, Justin.
So yeah, man, it's a great source of protein.
Well, turkey.
Sorry, man. I was thinking about my turkey for a second there.
Turkey and stuffing are tied for first place at 30%. Mashed potatoes and pumpkin pie are tied for second for 20%. So it's only a couple hours left. You can vote who's going to win tomorrow. I'm surprised pumpkin pie came a little bit last, and then turkey is definitely up there in the poll. So go to twitter.com/thesportscast1 to vote on your favorite Thanksgiving food item.
Get to it. It's important. Vote right now.
It's important. Who knows? You could win a gift card. Well, I'm not going to say that. But anyways.
Or we could get an autographed version of this podcast signed by Brian.
Exactly. And by the way, today is the 25th, 35th anniversary of Rocky versus Drago, Justin?
Yes, man. Yeah. 1985, man, on this day, Rocky Balboa shocked the world and defeated Ivan Drago.
Wow, 34 years ago. I remember that. Yeah, that was
35, sir.
35 years. Yeah, that's my favorite. Is that my favorite Rocky? No, it might be my second favorite. But Brian is a big Rocky fan, right?
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, wait, and you know what? Actually, no. Not that I didn't like it, but it didn't capture me as much as some of the other people I know. Like, I liked it, but I'm not a big fan of it.
There you have it. Anyways, Brian, what is the best way to reach you to talk to you about Justin Herbert?
Don't do that if you want to be upset. No, the best way, I love critical thinking and breaking it down. If you want to talk to me, you can reach me on Twitter at Brian Glaze Talk. I love like do the DMs, or you can do like a thread, or just pop onto one of my videos, one of those Justin Herbert videos, and hit the comment section. I'm happy to talk all day.
Yes, if you go to his Twitter account, it's Brian Glaze Talks at Brian Glaze Talks at on Twitter. You can see all his analysis. His YouTube channel is really great. If you watch the Justin Herbert video, it really breaks down. Even Tyler Turner, who's very critical of any analyst, loved your videos. So, which is saying a lot.
Hey, oh man, I'm honored.
And Justin Riley, what is the best way to reach you to talk to you about Rutgers football?
Oh man.
Or Alabama basketball.
Weren't
they able to beat UNC tonight or something?
No, but they kept it close. I mean, they lost by 9, which to me, given the state of Alabama basketball right now, that really is a victory.
Hey, score margin matters a lot. If you win by 3 or win by 20 points, you're in the playoffs.
Well, Alabama, they have a lot of talent right now. They just really haven't got it all together just yet. Nate Oates is a good coach. Just got to give him time for a finished product, and I think he eventually get them there. But when you get out rebounded by 29, that's a problem. And North Carolina just has studs upon studs, man, and they're able to just drop baskets at will. But Alabama hung in there. They put up a great fight, which shows a lot of promise. But they got a hellacious schedule here going. going forward. But as far as how to reach me, you can reach me on my personal Twitter at 121training. That's the number 12, one spelled out, training. Same with Instagram, but I also help run the Sportscast Twitter account as well as Instagram account and LinkedIn. We're there too. We got a presence everywhere at the Sportscast 1. And I will be covering the Iron Bowl, so if you want to talk to me about that during the game, come on.
Yes, visit us also on the sportscast.net for all the latest sports news and information about our podcast. And like Justin said, go to twitter.com/thesportscast1 at the Sportscast1 on Twitter. We'll be live tweeting throughout the weekend. We are starting, not officially, but we'll be live tweeting Ravens games because apparently there's a fan base out there. And we love the Baltimore Ravens. Not because Lamar Jackson's playing in it, because they have a great fan.
Now all of a sudden you're on my bandwagon. I've been a Ravens fan since 1999, and I'm representing right now, and I'm pretty excited. Yes.
Both to the party.
Before Ray Lewis.
I think they're going to own it. I really do think they're going to own it. I mean, they could beat New England in New England. Right, Brian?
Ooh, beat New England in New England.
I think it's very possible. I mean, I think
it's very possible. I think it's possible. I think the thing that they've already beat him, Bill Belichick is going to be prepared.
Yeah, I think he's studying the game film right now. I think he's like,
yeah,
we're going to face these guys in January, so let's get the party going. But there you have it. We're going to have a big show in a few weeks after the last conference championship weekend. We'll be having a big show that week, and Brian will be invited to come on, and we'll have Justin, Tyler, Kailu, and we'll be talking about like that Final Four, college playoffs Final Four. We'll be talking about it and analyzing it and what's going to happen. We'll see if Alabama gets in. They have a good shot, but they got to beat Auburn first, and of course they need to have LSU beat Georgia. That is what people are saying that needs to be done. But keep an eye on that on the Sportscast, and a lot of things are happening. Things are boiling. NFL is boiling a little bit, but college football is the hottest thing right now. College basketball is starting, but college football is the hottest thing right now, and things are starting to happen. There's conversations. But anyways, Brian and Justin, I appreciate you coming on to the Sportscast.
Hey, I appreciate you having me on.
Glad to be here. Roll Tide.